Hello again, everyone. I'm Clinton Bonner, VP at Topcoder, and I'm your host of the Upriser podcast, where we focus on innovation discussions on the future of work. We're talking remote workforces, virtual and distributed talent, and of course, the organizations tapping this talent economy to drive enterprise productivity and innovation. This is going to be part three of our Future of Work series, and this part is titled The Evolution of Employee Upskilling. If you're new to the Upriser podcast and new to Topcoder, I encourage you to go back and listen to both part one and part two of the series. And to quickly recap the topics for you, part one focused on the new future of work and how platforms that earn the trust of both sides of the marketplace are best positioned for success with both the talent and the enterprises that want to access and use that talent. In part two, we took a deep dive into the booming world of remote work, the stats, the benefits to the employee and the employer, and we spent a good bit of time discussing what happens after this boom to remote work and why using distributed virtual teams becomes the norm in a post COVID world. You could check out part one and part two on the Topcoder blog. That's just at topcoder.com/blog. You'll see them there, or on your YouTube channel, youtube.com/topcoder inc. So TOPCODERINC. And I encourage you to subscribe to both. So that brings us to part three of this Future of Work series, the evolution of employee upskilling. First, let's check in on the date and the time of this recording. It's April 2nd, 2020. So we are very much in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic here in the United States during the recording of this pod. A few short weeks ago, one of the major topics on the mind of enterprises and CHROs alike was employee upskilling and driving a future of work vision that included sincere investments in retraining and skills training programs for current full time employees. Upskilling has become a huge business unto itself in America and across the globe, as enterprises view upskilling as a major component of their workforce retention strategy. The philosophy, which I think is logical, is that enterprises recognize that many of the new skills they need to stay competitive and productive aren't currently in house. They just don't have enough of that skill. They've got good people hired, people they can trust, people who are dependable, who have a good track record, yet their skill sets are becoming perhaps obsolete or outsourced or overtaken by advances in AI, or maybe some combination of those things. The World Economic Forum, WEF, put out an extensive study in January of 2019 titled Towards a Reskilling Revolution. And we'll make sure we'll link to this in the accompanying podcast, and we'll link to it in the YouTube post as well for sure. But if you're just listening, if you're in front of a computer, Google WEF Reskilling Study, and it should be the first link that appears for you. In this study, the key findings suggest that the US can invest approximately $34 billion in reskilling, and that money would basically reskill about 1.4 million workers, up leveling those individuals into higher paid roles and in areas where the need is predicted, where they need that skill. Again, for me, this seems logical, and just like our core argument in part one of the series, this move, being touted as a key focus for the future of work, is really, a linear move rather than an exponential one. In part one of the series, we discussed that most future of work conversations focus on reskilling, upskilling, and what the future labor force looks like when AI is woven into the fabric of the enterprise at scale. Our point in part one is that a narrow future of work discussion, missing the talent economy completely, is just that. It's too narrow. Maybe you know it as the gig economy or crowdsourcing or a different name, but our point of view is that if you're not including open talent models and models in your future of work vision where you could tap the gig economy or tap individuals with skill sets and bring them into enterprise work on demand, then you're missing the most important movement impacting the real future of work. Basically, your vision for the future of work is, in our view, very much incomplete if you're not factoring in on-demand remote workforces and remote talent. So is, quote unquote, traditional upskilling or reskilling an employee a bad idea? No, we're not arguing an either or scenario here. What we are positioning is that a concept of workforce transformation focused on teaching current employees how to wield the gig economy, how to wield the talent economy for the enterprise can be a more effective use of training and investment for both the individual and for the organization. And we're going to explore that quite a bit in this podcast today. So, importantly, let's first define that. What do we mean by this? What does it mean to transform a workforce or even just an individual by showing them how to use on demand remote talent for enterprise work? For us, a few thoughts on what this education might feel like come up. So, let's discuss a few of them. Number one, understanding the potential for remote workforce in the enterprise. This is kind of like an art of the possible discussion to take enterprise blinders off of individuals who have always, gotten things done a certain way inside the enterprise, enabling them to become aware of alternative ways to produce or execute for their organization. So that's first. Number two, training on what work is potentially a great fit for crowd or outside talent and what work is best suited to stay within your four walls is really important. This is another important layer of education. Once employees are aware of what's possible through an on demand remote workforce, it's just as important for them to become educated on what type of work and innovation that they would normally see as like inside jobs, and understand which ones are good fits for external crowds, external talent. And in addition, it's also crucial to understand which work is simply not suited for external talent. This will increase focus and the understanding of good fit versus poor fit, and that will help drive efficient practices for your organization. Number three, hands on training with platforms, on demand talent platforms. We're going to talk about a few. Obviously, I'm coming from Topcoder, so we're going to talk about Topcoder a bit. We focus on demand technology and digital talent, but there are many others out there like Verblio, like Tongle, like HackerOne, and many, many others. But hands on training and getting your hands dirty on these platforms is crucial. So there are many platforms that operate in the talent economy and whose primary function is delivering a remote workforce and outcomes to you from outside your four walls. Again, where Topcoder focuses on digital and technology talent to help you execute tech projects faster, Verblio focuses on content creation through a curated crowd of quality writers. The point being that different communities and platforms offer up different specialized skills that are important to enterprise productivity. In part four of the series, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves, we're going to do a deep dive into the differences in models that exist and why we believe some are stronger than others by being more equitable to the talent and providing certain protections to the talent that avoid an economic race to the bottom for the talent itself. It's an important topic, and we're going to dedicate an entire episode to it in part four of this Future of Work series. Okay, and the fourth thing that a program should kind of feel and consist of if we're looking at, a workforce transformation of your organization and your employees, the fourth thing is dedicated innovation execution budget provided to the trainees so that they can experiment on the platforms while producing real world outputs that your enterprise can actually use. This one is really simple. Once they are aware of what's possible, and they're trained on good fit, bad fit, and they've, experimented a little bit with the platform, they've gotten their hands dirty, then it's about empowerment, which includes dedicated budget and cultural guidance to encourage the uptake and usage of talent platforms. There's certainly more to an effective workforce transformation strategy than just those four elements we just talked about. However, those are at least good milestones or good guidelines to think through and plan towards. In addition to ways in which enterprises can map out this alternative future of work reskilling for their workforce, I think it's important to understand and share with you why we believe this is a more effective path for reskilling in general. We have three main reasons that support our point of view. Okay, reason number one, the future of work is remote and it's accelerating. As I record this pod on April 2nd, 2020, and we are in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic here in the States, before the acronym COVID came into our lives, remote work was already accelerating at an impressive clip. We spent part two of this series discussing a number of studies pointing to why employees enjoy and desire more opportunity for remote work. Now, with the accelerant of the coronavirus, millions and millions of more in the workforce and students who are tomorrow's workforce are suddenly distributed and working virtually. Tools like Microsoft Teams, Zoom Video, and other suites and tools that support remote work, they are booming. The uptake is more than sincere. People will experience remote work and demand it be at least a part of their work experience in the future. And for the enterprise, there are a lot of perks to having a more resilient workforce that utilizes remote work, at least part of the time. The pre COVID studies show us that remote workers tend to be more engaged and therefore more effective. I'm really interested to see the research that will emerge in a post COVID world and the overall percentage of organizations that open up remote work policies due to increasing demands from the workforce who want this flexibility. The second reason we believe this type of reskilling that we're talking about could be more effective is the productivity of the individual and the enterprise skyrockets through the understanding of how to wield remote on demand talent. This is perhaps anecdotal and something I can share with extreme confidence as I've been with Topcoder for over a decade now. Individuals, small teams, and organizations that use on demand talent platforms at scale increase their productivity in very sincere ways. We've witnessed this hundreds of times over where individuals within an enterprise, they could be a senior manager of engineering or a director of innovation or maybe the VP of analytics, folks who own product or own a program at a company. When those individuals learn, experiment through, and then scale their use of external remote talent, the productivity of their team skyrockets. And one important point that I truly think is worth understanding in our experience at Topcoder, these individuals, number one, they grow their full time team. Their full time employee team actually expands, and we'll discuss why in a second. Number two, they receive larger and larger budgets. They're being more productive when they go ask for money to go run more work and experiment and innovate. They get yeses because they're being more productive. And number three, the individuals leading this effort, they tend to be promoted rapidly because they're standing out as leaders, they're producing, they're growing their teams, and they're being highly, highly effective for the enterprise. And our third reason that we have this point of view, we feel that reskilling for workforce transformation through on demand remote workforce talent is really smart, is that the pace of execution and innovation, it is unmatched when you combine traditional labor with the power of remote on-demand workforce talent. This is not an either-or scenario. Very important to understand, this is not a replacement for FTEs. This is taking your current FTE team and supercharging how much they can produce with the combination of remote on-demand talent. As an example of accelerated innovation, I'll share this with you. Right now, during the middle of the coronavirus outbreak, we're working with an innovator named Sufi Savavi, who is bringing a new telepresence fitness application to market in about 14 to 20 days on Topcoder. We're talking about like from his Doc Emmett Brown flux capacitor aha moment when he got the idea to a live MVP of his application in about 14 to 20 days, start to finish. He's building the app during social distancing from his home in Philadelphia, PA, and executing through 100% distributed remote talent. And that includes talent that's also outside the Topcoder platform. I encourage anyone watching or listening to this to also check out our Wizard.fit series. That's what he's calling the company, Wizard.fit, where we are covering in near real time his build, his process, and importantly, the collaboration tools and platforms that he's putting together in unison so he could sprint with remote external talent. In my opinion, what Sufi is doing on these multiple platforms and how he's doing this 100% through distributed talent, it is unto itself a masterclass in how to innovate. And again, in this future of work, this real future of work where you can tap external talent on demand, I encourage everybody to go check out that series because Sufi is doing it and he's doing it at a hyper pace. It's really amazing. So the three reasons we just discussed, they shape our position as to why we believe a focus on teaching your current employees how to wield on-demand talent via platforms is smart and perhaps more effective than traditional upskilling plans. To close out this episode, let's revisit the purpose of upskilling and reskilling programs. Enterprises are investing so much in them right now. And really, for me, it's because of two things. A, they want to retain their quality talent by providing them new opportunities to grow their careers. And B, they want to get the very most productivity out of their teams, out of their individuals. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. It's a smart investment. And what do you think happens when an individual is empowered to innovate? When they receive larger and larger budgets because their production is comparatively higher than their counterparts. And because of their increased productivity, they grow their team internally and externally. They become more productive. If the purpose of reskilling is to retain good talent and to maximize their productivity for the enterprise, then what seems like a smarter choice to you? Should you teach your employees a new specialized skill, or should you teach them how to wield specialized skills on demand? Again, I think one is a linear choice. Teaching them a specialized skill is not a bad thing. It'll produce good results. But one is an exponential choice. One allows you to take an individual and really transform how they view work, how they approach work, and how productive they can be and how innovative they can be for the enterprise. So I'll leave you with this question. Which one do you believe can have a greater impact for you and your organization? I'm Clinton Bonner, VP at Topcoder, and you can find us in a couple of different ways. Topcoder.com/blog, and of course on YouTube, youtube.com/Topcoder Inc. Those are two places in which you could subscribe, and we'll be spinning up a subscription for the Upriser podcast brought to you by Topcoder very soon as well. Thank you for joining us, and look out for part 4 in this Future of Work series very soon.